The NaNoWriMo dilemma, what came first, character or plot? Making it up as you go, and more. This is Writing Advice Blitz. Welcome back to Writing Advice Blitz, where I blitz through your writing advice questions as fast as possible. I try. I like to rant, you guys. Anyways, before we get started, because I do have a bunch of questions and I want to blitz through them as fast as possible, let me just give you all the formal disclaimer that the following is merely just my advice, my opinion, and what worked for me. Don't take it as gospel. Take what you like and leave what you don't. Simple as that. Now, let's get started! My protagonist is asexual aromantic, and I know people are going to be looking for the love plotline regardless. What do you think I should do? To hell with them. As I've mentioned in the past, you as the author have absolutely no control over how people will react to your story and what they will think of your story and your characters and your setting and everything. It's almost as though they are entirely independent of what you do. Now, I feel this is one of those things that every creative person deals with. It's the idea of, what are people going to think about me if they realize I made this? And generally people start setting up walls. You know, we start making defense mechanisms like, well, I just won't write about this, or I'll just won't draw my character this way. And if I do this, then people won't do this thing back to me. I actually disagree with that way of going about things. One, it takes your voice away from your art, because ultimately what you do and the way you do things, it's part of the way you create art. So censoring it and turning it down just simply because you don't want people to yell at you later is, in my opinion, betraying the ultimate goal of what you're doing, which is to birth into the world something that would not have existed otherwise. And by the way, it doesn't work. I can tell you from experience that people reading your books will always surprise you. They're going to come up with things that you could have never expected. Like, this is actually kind of double funny for me because of this question. You see, one of my readers picked up my book Raven's Gem, and they thought that the protagonist, Lucian Wade, was actually asexual aromantic. And I don't know if he is, he hasn't told me, but consider that would actually explain a lot of things when you think about it. But that's the point. You cannot possibly set up enough defenses and walls to prevent yourself from the things that will happen based on your book. And now, really, let's be honest, if you're writing a story about X and people are looking for Y, then they're just setting themselves up for disappointment because clearly they've come to the wrong shop. So what do I think? Keep writing that story. To hell with anyone who comes into your shop and expects you to serve them what they want. And just a little side note for those of you who may not be aware with all of the different colors of the romantic and sexual spectrum. For those of you who don't know, a person who is asexual does not feel sexual attraction towards anybody. And a person who is aromantic does not feel romantic attraction towards anybody. You don't have to be one to be the other, but it is a real thing. It makes up for about 1% of the population. I'm Kieran, teaching you about writing advice and LGBTQIA? Is that the correct term? Doesn't LGBTQIA sound like the title of like a 60s song? LGBTQIA, LGBTQIA. Oh no. I hope nobody gets angry at me because of that. Too late! Next question. After that really silly answer, it's time to get a little serious. I used to write a lot when I was younger. As I got older, life started getting in the way, and now writing seems foreign to me. The words come out slowly and awkwardly. What do you think the problem is? Sorry about the car. I have two things to say, and they're both probably not the thing you're hoping to hear. What do I mean by that? Usually get questions like this, and the way the question was phrased revolved around the idea that this person thought they had lost the spark. One of the things that makes me angry is our culture's idea that talent is the #1 factor behind being successful at what you do. And that's not true. Talent is the same as just getting a lucky roll during character creation. Some people have a little bit more leeway towards doing some things, but ultimately, any skill is a discipline. I mean, yeah, back when I was little, I actually played a lot of soccer. I mean, I lived in Mexico, everyone played soccer. And now I'm pretty sure that I suck at it because I haven't played soccer in ages. Yeah, sure, I jog a lot, but it's not the same sort of muscle memory. What happened with me in soccer? Did I lose the spark? Absolutely not. It's all about discipline. I know people don't like to hear this because people expect some sort of like magical response, you know, like a secret recipe that, you know, will give you everything that you want, and that's not how it works. Especially with writing. Writing is a discipline, like practicing for a marathon or playing soccer or being a black belt karate master. It's all about discipline. Making the time, putting in the hours, and lots of hard work. And I know people don't like to hear that. People like the idea that you're born being better than everyone else. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I took a lot of writing classes, like a lot of writing classes. And I love them because I got to meet a lot of people. And every person, and I do mean every person, who went about claiming they had talent and yet did not go out of their way to actually put in the hours, were not that good. Why? Because even if you got a couple extra lucky dice rolls during character creation, nothing makes up for allocating your skill points in the right place. Now you may be wondering what's up with all the RPG jokes. It's foreshadowing. Now, what's up with you? You used to write a lot, and you used to be confident with it, and now years have passed, life got in the way, and you're trying to get back into things, and it doesn't feel right. You're slow, things are awkward, you feel like you're stumbling from word to word. And this is my favorite part, because the answer to your problem is merely just the act of writing. Seriously, just like any other muscle, just like any other discipline or skill or sport, you know, your brain and your creativity and your imagination need to stay in top shape. I can tell you, from having written like 8 books by this point, that the more you write, the easier it becomes to write. And I can tell you also from experience that if you stop writing, getting back into writing is really, really hard. It's funny because the description that you post is actually the same way I feel whenever I go for like a month without writing a completed work or without focusing on one thing. You go into the page and you're stumbling from word to word like a toddler learning to walk again. That is really how it feels. But you make the time, you start writing again, and little by little you build that old same momentum. And next thing you know, your brain, your imagination, and your creativity are back on top shape. Now there's one more thing I want to tell you. And this links to the next question and also with the whole concept of NaNoWriMo. So consider this a bonus answer. Now it's time for Max to get a little personal, so let's just dim the lights a little. Life. It really does get in the way, doesn't it? I know that this is the hardest thing to tell someone, especially when you have a job and children and so many other things going on in your life. The hardest thing to tell somebody is, if you want to get good at writing, make it the time. And trust me, I don't say that easily because I once got that piece of advice. I got that piece of advice when I was working 12 hours a day at this super duper secret laboratory, totally not the Death Star. I worked at this laboratory. I got up at 5 in the morning and I got home at 5 in the afternoon. Between driving to and from work, coming home, saying hi to the family, trying to run for like at least half an hour, showering, making dinner, what is left? Not a lot. Not really. But sometimes we have to make tough choices. And people told me, Max, you want to get better, make the time. And I would say, I don't have the time. But that was a lie. I had time. Limited time. A little bit of it. But you know what? There came a time when I was more willing to find the time and make it than let go of my writing. And that's the toughest question, because I realized that I had to stop and break down my day and seek to find, to the best of my ability, time to write. I stopped watching TV. I watched even less videos on YouTube. I squeezed the most I could, and I wrote at work. I wrote during my lunch. I wrote during my breaks, and I managed to get another half an hour of writing once I got home. That meant that by the end of the day, I had at least an hour of writing done, and that's good. It's better than no writing done whatsoever. And I know what you may be asking, well, Max, I can't just do that. Are you sure you can't? You see, back when I first got into things, and I thought, what are people going to think of me, typing during my break or typing during my lunch, are they going to think I'm insane? And I started letting go of those fears. I stopped caring about what people will think of me. And I let go of those fears. I let go of those doubts. And I just started writing. Even when I had to write in a room full of people, I just put on my headphones and ignore them. Is that rude? Yeah, it is, I guess. But I cared more about writing than I did about their opinions. And really, they were not the best of people, to be entirely honest. Eventually, I found more space, and I started writing more, and I started dedicating more time to what I really cared about. I know that this is not the best thing to hear when you have children and a job, and you just can't seem to get enough out of the day. Well, take it from the guy who spent half of his day out of his house doing something he despised, and still managed to get an hour of writing done during that awful period in my life. I was literally working like 80 hours a week. It was awful, but I did not let it kill my writing. So, make that choice. I know that it may not be the easiest choice to make, and the easiest change to apply, but I know you can make it. I empower you to make that choice and to make the time and to not allow life to get in the way of your writing anymore. Next question. I have never done NaNoWriMo before, but I want to. The thing is that I'm also in the middle of editing my current book. Is it possible to do both? What do you recommend? For those of you who don't know, because it's entirely possible you don't know, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month. It takes place in the month of November every year, and writers are tasked with writing 50,000 words in 1 month. I mean, technically speaking, sure, it's possible. Do I think you should do it? Probably not. I am going to be really, really honest and frank with you. The first time you do NaNoWriMo, it's like boot camp. It's really, really tough. Especially if you haven't already made the habit to write every night. Because NaNoWriMo is going to kick you in the butt and get you writing. It's really daunting, especially if it's your first time. Now, I believe that in the question you specify that you're also attending school, and being even more honest than before, honesty levels rising. Now, I know who sent this question, and it's one of my patrons, and I love them. They're a wonderful person. And I have to be honest with you that attempting both in the same month, editing your current book and writing a new one, may not be the best choice, especially if it's your first time. Now, what do I recommend? I honestly recommend you stick to one or the other. I do absolutely see the allure of NaNoWriMo. It's a great month for writers. There's just so much solidarity going on. And I am going to be doing NaNoWriMo with all of you. So, we're all going to be down there in the trenches writing and having fun. So I understand would you would want to do it. Though, if you are in the middle of editing and you feel that you have built the momentum with editing and you would just rather finish editing your book, then do so. I mean, ultimately, you have to do what is the most effective. That being said, who am I to tell you you can't do something? If you feel confident enough that you can attempt to do both, then do so. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm just a silly guy with silly hair, so what do I know about your limits? Next question! I am unsure how to set the atmosphere when first introducing my antagonist. What do you recommend? This is an easy question. Write the introduction of the antagonist, then finish the entire book, and then go back and revise it. No, seriously, that's it. What I said in the previous video is that we as a culture seem to be under the impression that writers come in and get things right the first time around, and the truth is that that doesn't happen. That seldom happens. Really, if you want to set the atmosphere for your antagonist, I recommend you write the story as it comes to you, as it comes to your mind. Just write it without interrupting yourself, without censoring yourself, and without getting in the way of the story. And then later on, just go back and look over the introduction. Ask yourself if the scene was set up correctly, and if it sounds right, and if it achieves what you want it to achieve. The trick is to revise it later. That really is it. It's like, even if you could come up with the best atmosphere and introduction for your antagonist, you should still revise it anyway and make sure that you did actually nail it. Like, really, people give the first draft so much credit when in reality it's just the foundation for the story. Now, as a sort of middle-of-the-way advice, if you want to set up the atmosphere for your antagonist, make sure to twist the descriptions. Not only the descriptions of the antagonist, but also the descriptions of the scenery around them. I mean it. If you're looking for one piece of advice, the key, per se, of setting the atmosphere and the feel/mood of the story, it is description. Without a doubt, description. I hope that helps. Next question. I have a story idea revolving around Greek mythology, but I am worried it might contradict canon. How do you feel about twisting mythology in order to tell a story? Short answer, do it. Long answer, do it. Now. Silliness aside, those of you who are used to my Virtual Writing Academy shows know very well that there's a particular line that I repeat every episode, and I hope that it has gotten through the heads of some of you. That phrase is, whatever you need to get writing is fine by me. And I do mean it. I've gotten questions from people asking me if it's okay to change the prompts or to use their own characters or their own settings, and of course it's fine. The goal of my writing exercises, and ultimately the goal of writing, is 1, to write, and 2, to tell an engaging and enticing story. Now, do I think it's okay to break canon, to shatter canon in order to tell a story? Absolutely. No, really, like I said before, the goal of writing is to create an enticing and compelling story. Seriously, anything goes. Now, I know you're thinking, but Max, if I break canon, some people are not going to like my story. Some of my more astute listeners/watchers are going to notice that this question is rather similar to the first one. You are writing about X, and people may be expecting Y. What should you do then? You should write the story you want to write. As I've said in the first question, you have zero control over how people will react to your story. And let's be entirely honest, okay? Greek mythology is silly. Like, really silly. Hey yo, Orion right here. Whoa, my kids totally want to kill me. What should I do? I know, I'm going to eat them. Greek mythology. Yo, I'm Zeus, god of lightning. Whoa, is that a cow? I'm gonna tap that. Greek mythology. Yo, my daughter just died. Could you bring her back to life? Nah, I'm just gonna turn you into a flower. Pow. Greek mythology. Seriously, Greek mythology is kinda silly. Like, silly. If you wanted to do a canon Greek mythology story, you would have to have Zeus bang a couple of animals, because that's what Zeus did. Now, silliness aside, you all know my thoughts on this. I think that you have the opportunity to create something that can be entirely new to the world, something that can be compelling and enticing and a new way to look at things. Why then should you censor this awesome idea you have just because some people may not like it? As always, I stand by my ideal that if you have a story you want to tell, you must tell it, regardless of how strange it may be and how many feelings it may break, because birthing something new into the world will forever be greater than birthing something we have already seen. Simple as that. Next question. How do you feel about the idea of making it up as you go? Yay, another thing I can blame English teachers for. As I've said a million times already, more like 3, but still it feels like a million times. Culture seems to be under the idea that writers come into a story and they know everything that's going on. And although I know that there may be some writers who do that, because we're all a bunch of weirdos, there has to be a couple of people out there who actually know what's going on in their story. In my experience, though, it's not that I make the story up as I go. The characters make up the story as they go, and I just follow behind them. Those of you who have been following my blog for ages know my overall idea behind characters, and I will probably end up making a whole video about characters in time. For now, let me just give you my quick thoughts on it. I used to outline a lot. Back when I first got started, I used to outline everything, because I thought, as I was educated by the American education system, that writers knew everything. And when I began writing, and I began realizing that the characters were steering things in different ways, I began to feel really frustrated because I thought I was doing things wrong. Clearly, I birthed these creatures into being and they must obey my every word. And although some writers say that that's what should happen, I ended up realizing it wasn't my way. And over time, and a couple of books, I began to change my way of doing things. I decided to take the role of the cameraman. Not the director, not the screenwriter, the cameraman. That means my job is simply to get in the set and start recording and follow the characters while everyone else takes care of the rest. I know it may sound a little weird to just let go of all control. There is a little bit of outlining. I think some of you remember me tweeting my chapter outlines, but even then, like 99% of the time, the outline just goes an entirely different way. Like a character says something or does something, and then next thing we know, we're in an entirely different place. And the scene didn't happen the way it was supposed to, but it ended up getting to a better place. I personally enjoy showing up to work, as you may say, as the cameraman, and just watching the characters be themselves, and sometimes taking me down roads that I never thought I would experience. Writing for me, it's about the surprises. It's about showing up and seeing the story develop before my eyes. I am the story's first reader, and it's always fun when the characters bloom before you. When the story that you thought was gonna happen doesn't happen anymore and it becomes something different. This has been the story for every single one of my books. From Raven's Gem to Justine's Blood to A Secret Named Sophie. Every one of those books went in an entirely different direction. So how do I feel about making it up as you go? I love it. It's my thing. It is only when you let go of all control that you gain true power. Where's that from? Did I just make that up? I think I just made that up. It sounds cool though. It's something that Mr. Raoult would say. Next question. It's today's last question already. My god, it's been like 7 questions. I thought I would drop this extra question. 1, because it's a fun question to ask. And 2, because it's another way to talk about storytelling. Dear Max, have you ever played D&D? Which, of course, is talking about Dungeons & Dragons, the classic pen and paper role-playing game by Gary Gygax. And the following editions from Wizards of the Coast, I think. It was TSR and then Wizards of the Coast. See, I'm such a freaking nerd. Although I haven't played D&D, I have played a bunch of other pen and paper RPGs. Always as the game master, which is funny when you realize the fact that I'm a writer. And there is a couple of things in common, which is the reason why I'm answering this question in this video. Before I go into those, let me just clarify what have I played and what have I game mastered for all of you nerds out there. I have a bit of a soft spot for Dark Heresy, because that was kind of like my formal introduction to the 40k universe, and the silliness that is the 40k universe. I mean, I had played like Dawn of War and those strategy games, so I kind of knew Space Marines and like the Imperial Guard and stuff like that, but I didn't actually like know the world. So I have a soft spot because like Dark Heresy showed me that world from the point of view of normal people who are kind of expendable, you know? Like the only people who like have any real power are like the big powerful generals who lead these armies, and everybody else is just kind of cannon fodder. So it was for me kind of cool to play like a scum in that world because you're so incredibly weak. That aside, my favorite RPG is, of course, Fate. Fate is very story-oriented. Don't get me wrong, I value what D&D did for pen and paper RPGs, but it is very combat-oriented. And I kind of, you know, it shouldn't take 3 hours to kill like 5 goblins. No offense, but I love story. That's why Fate is my thing. Especially Fate Core. Fate Core is amazing. Fate Core is so awesome because you can literally play anything in it. When I first finished watching / reading Danganronpa, I actually spent like a week just making character sheets in Fate for the Danganronpa characters. And it's so compatible. I'm nerding out. Anyways, the reason I am totally nerding out. The reason why I'm bringing up this question in this writing advice video, and not just to remind you all that I am a huge nerd, is that being a game master, which is the person in charge of preparing the story for the rest of the players in a pen and paper role-playing game, is a lot like being a writer. It really is. Like, I had the same story, as you would say, between learning to be a writer and learning to be a game master. I used to do a lot of planning. I used to prepare everything and attempt to know everything that was going on in the world. And then when the characters are introduced, your plans go out the window. Anyone who has ever game mastered knows very well that whatever you outline, it's gone. It's freaking gone. Like, all of the planning, all of those encounters, gone. Absolutely gone. Destroyed. Annihilated. You can't even recycle them because they were story-based. It's ridiculous. And up to an extent, I found that game mastering taught me to let go of control and to fly by the seat of my pants, because that's really how you come up with story. I know this may be kind of like showing you what's behind the curtain for players, but I seldom had any idea what was going on before I sat down. Like, I would have like a general idea, like, okay, well, this session is gonna be kind of about this, maybe, hopefully, maybe. And then the characters would come in and then just, oh crap, this went the entirely other way, and I need a character now to be the antagonist because this poor guy's not ain't gonna cut it. And you have to fly by the seat of your pants, and that teaches you to let go of control. Because I was game mastering around the same time when I was coming into my full writerly job thing, and I saw the parallels, and I was like, well, my characters are also their own people, and they have their own personalities and their own goals, and they're going to screw up my plans anyway. Why don't I just not make plans, or not make really, really, really specific plans? Suddenly writing became easier, or rather not easier, but less stressful. I didn't have to make a plan. I would just show up and I would be like, well, this should maybe kind of hopefully happen. But if it doesn't, it's still okay. And those sessions were incredibly fun, both writing and game mastering, because things would go insanely crazy. And also thanks to the fact that Fate is a very, very simple game system, I was able to fly by the seat of my pants instead of having to make encounters and prepare dungeons and stuff like that. What I want you to get from this is kind of a bit of a reinforcement on the previous question, that it is okay to make it up as you go. It's okay to let go of control. I know it may seem daunting to just see where the story goes, because the biggest fear is that, well, nothing happens and then you end up with story you have to cut. And I get that, but I think that if you learn to trust your characters, they will take you to their story. I think the trick comes in trusting your characters, not second-guessing themselves or you, and just letting go of control. Is it daunting? Is it scary? Of course it is. But I think that, at least in my experience, the ending result has been so much better. And so much more fun to write. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, if I had the group to game master some more, because I'm a nerd without friends, I would totally like record it and then like put it up on YouTube, and it would be so much fun because crazy things happen in games, and it's the exact same way as telling a story. Maybe someday. That being said, I do actually totally want to maybe someday do a game mastering video, because I feel that it is a great experience for writers. Really, like, if that doesn't teach you to let go of control, I don't know what will. Because I swear, when you have 2 or 3 or 4 other players, the story goes places. Especially places you would have never, ever, ever expected. That being said, I hope that this video was fun to watch and a little insightful. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like and subscribe if you want more. If you have any questions of your own that you would like answered, or feedback that you would like me to look at, please make sure to leave it in the comments below. And of course, if you would like your daily dose of writing advice, positivity, and prompts, head over to my blog at maxkieran.tumblr.com. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Mwah! I give kisses now? Okay, being honest is actually better than this, so mwah. You want to know how much of a nerd I am? You want to know? I have my dice, my nerd dice, and you may be thinking, oh Max, you had those ready for like the video. No, I have them on my desk, cause I'm a nerd, you guys. Now, I love my dice though. Dice are really fun. I have this dice for like rolling dungeons. It's really fun. Just watch as the subscriber count drops. It's like, whoa, I thought this guy was cool. What a nerd. I am a nerd.